Warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for Cuss Hoops with myself, Greg Hoops Peterson, now part of the VSiN family podcast. We've got a great podcast for you. Unfortunately, the news and notes in college basketball are really starting to wane. We did not really see anything in terms of transfer news, anything like that in college basketball on Sunday. So we're just going to have a two-part conversation with one of our good friends as we welcome aboard Ryan McIntyre. He does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's a man that graduated from West Virginia, so he's obviously very happy about them making the College Baseball World Series. We're not going to talk college baseball, though. We're going to talk college basketball. We're going to take a look at what we saw with those NBA draft decisions. St. John's being able to pick up Tonde Yusufu, Milan Mimicevic, heading on over to Kentucky, the strength that we're seeing out there in the SEC right now. We're going to talk a little bit of Big Ten with him as well, because for the longest of time for the Big Ten, they used to have just a big, giant middle of teams. Looks like there's a little bit more of a divide between the haves and the have-nots in that conference. You've got some locked and loaded teams and some teams that are starting to lag behind. So we'll talk about that with Ryan and so much more. And if you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, Coast Hoops, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. And if you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GNet_D1. Keep in mind, letters down, they mean does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way, that is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I do beg with you. I do plead with you. Please do send in those Twitter/X questions, because it'll make this offseason go by a little bit faster, and it'll let me know what you guys want to be hearing on this podcast. And I've been talking about this the last few days. Conference preview podcast, they are going to be back up and running within, I would say, about the next 48 to 72 hours. Plan on starting it up with the America East, so be on the lookout there. It's going to be a lot of fun to be breaking down all these conferences as we are starting to get these rosters a little bit more fortified. We know what we're getting a bit more for this upcoming college basketball season, so that's great. And a man that does a great job being dialed in all 12 months out of the year on college basketball, that'd be our guy Ryan McIntyre, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Always great to be able to get his thoughts, because he used to be a part of the West Virginia and South Carolina coaching staffs as well, so he's got great insight there over on the college experience on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. They break down a little bit of everything this time of year: college baseball, college basketball, college football. Ryan, along Kobe Dan, they do an excellent job there. And then for Ryan, if you're looking for a little bit more West Virginia, shall we say, news, notes, and just chatter in general, he also does the Ryan and Rush show as well. You're able to follow Ryan on Twitter/X at Moneyline_Mac, spelled MAC. And Ryan, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Greg, always appreciate you having me. Let's talk some college hoops.
Absolutely. And Ryan, it has been a wild last few weeks of college basketball since we last chatted up, but we did see the outcome of the NBA draft decisions. And was there anything that was truly stunning to you? Because I feel like it's much of what we've seen over the last few seasons, where a lot of the fringe guys, they decide to pull out of the NBA draft. Really, the lone fringe guys was maybe Allen Graves throwing their Koa Pete, but all in all, I thought that college basketball had a lot of talented players return, and a lot of teams that need their guys back got them.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be another top-heavy type year. The SEC had some big-time impact guys come back. Florida looks very strong, probably going to be, preseason number 1. Alabama gets a bunch of guys back. Arkansas, and then Vanderbilt. I think Vandy, year 3 now, Mark Byington, he's really got the thing rolling. So I think the SEC, the top half is going to be strong once again.
Yep, I do think so as well, and I think that it is going to be very interesting to see what we get out of the SEC, because I thought that was one of the biggest decisions, having Tanner go back to Vanderbilt, because I thought without him, Vanderbilt was really going to be lost in the abyss, because I feel like we've talked about this a few times, but it's worth mentioning once again. The SEC has just been a mighty conference here, and they've done a great job going out there spending and getting some very talented pieces.
They do, and I think it's a trickle down from football too, Greg. I think they're making so much money in these 2 super leagues that I think it trickles down to basketball and, heck, even baseball as well. So I think the SEC is going to be strong once again with those top teams that we discussed. And I think the Big Ten as well will be strong just because of the money.
Yep, with the Big Ten, I think that's going to be a little bit interesting as well, because I do think that in the Big Ten, the one knock that I have on it is it feels like the bottom teams have been a little bit left in the dust. Like, I haven't loved what I've seen out of Northwestern here in the offseason. Penn State is just completely lost at this point as well, and I do feel like with the Big Ten, they just have a few more, shall we say, weaker teams than, say, the Big 12 and the SEC.
Yeah, I agree with you. In the Big Ten, it's a weird league just because it goes coast to coast compared to the SEC. I know has spread into Texas now and Oklahoma, but I feel like they're still a little bit regional. But these teams just really get it in a bind when they don't have the resources, and then you add the travel in. They're really at a disadvantage. So I think the bottom of the Big Ten will continue to be weak. But I mean, the top's great. I mean, Michigan won it all last year. Sparty looks ready to rock and roll once again. Illinois coming off the Final Four. You got your Wisconsin Badgers. They're always tough. Purdue, they played in the Natty, 3 years ago now. I think we'll still see a strong showing from the top, but definitely the bottom is still very weak.
Yep, I agree with you there. And I think that it's going to be interesting with the Big Ten because for the longest time, we always felt like there was a big middle in the Big Ten. And it feels like that's one of the biggest conferences that's had a real shift over the last few years because it used to be, you could probably pick your top 2, top 3 teams in the Big Ten. And then 4 through 12 was like picking a name out of a hat. It just doesn't feel like it's that way anymore in the Big Ten.
Yeah, agreed. And the middle of the pack, it's interesting too because you got proud programs like Maryland that struggle with their identity. I know it's only buzzed year number 2, but when they left the ACC, I just feel like they lost a lot of what made Maryland basketball great. Oregon and Washington, I still think, are going through the transition phase. USC, the must-bust, they haven't been able to get off the ground. And UCLA, since coming to the Big Ten, has not been as good as they were in the Pac-12.
Yep, no question about it. And I will say this. I don't know if you agree / disagree. Low-key, Maryland has actually had a really good offseason because I am still a little bit of a believer in Buzz Williams. Year number 1 obviously was awful for him, but you are going to be getting back Pharrell Payne from a season ago. You bring in DJ Wagner, who used to be a top 15 recruit. Tomislav Buzin was a double-double machine over in New Mexico. I really feel like this has been a nice offseason for Maryland, and the freshman in Baba, I hope I get this last name correct, Oladatson, he is going to be a really good stud down low as well.
He will, yes. You got to think that Maryland should be able to bounce back. Buzz has a track record. Year 1 is usually not the year. It took him a minute to get him going at Virginia Tech. So it seems like they're going in the same pace that they were at Virginia Tech and Texas A&M now at Maryland. But people are just not as patient anymore because of the portal, and you're able to flip your roster over right away.
Yep, no question about it. If you're a new coach in college basketball, you used to be able to get that full recruiting cycle, 4 years to be able to get things rocking and rolling. Don't have that anymore, but we always have a lot with regards to Ryan McIntyre. He does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's joining me right here on Coast to Coast Hoops. And then one of the big things that we saw with the NBA draft decisions as well is not just the guys that returned to school, the guys that entered in the transfer portal. And I thought that those were the biggest 2, shall we say, moves. Milan Memiselovic, he is out over at Kentucky. Tonde Yusufu, he goes on over to St. John's. How do you take a look at that dynamic of things? Because those were 2 big-time programs that really need that huge piece, felt like they were striking out in the transfer portal, and lo and behold, at the end of the portal cycle, they strike gold.
Yeah, those were huge pieces to your point, Craig. And sometimes it's risky now because you don't want to wait too long and you could strike out, but sometimes teams hit the jackpot. For example, Momcilovic going over to Kentucky. Kentucky was able to wait that out, get a guy that can really make shots at a high clip from the perimeter. And then for Momcilovic, he earned himself a nice payday.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not sure where you put Kentucky now in the hierarchy of the SEC because certainly I just don't think that you could put them up there with Tennessee and Florida. I think that those are very clear top 2 teams, but for Kentucky, it was looking really bleak before they got Milan in there. And even to a lesser extent, Malachi Moreno as well, because with Moreno, he had a little bit of question mark as to whether or not he was going to be heading back to Kentucky as well. But now I think that Kentucky has refortified themselves as like a number 5, number 6-ish team in the SEC.
I think you're right. I was just thinking about that earlier today about Kentucky. Where do they stand in the hierarchy of the SEC? I don't know if 5th or 6th is good enough, though, for Mark Pope. And what's going to be a huge year. I mean, Greg, they're spending too much money in that program, and we know how crazy Big Blue Nation is. They don't expect to finish 5th or 6th in the SEC. This is Kentucky basketball.
Yeah, they certainly are going to be wanting a little bit more than that. But, out there in the SEC, I'm not sure how you take a look at things, but 5th or 6th can make you like a top 15, top 20 team with how loaded I think that conference is going to be this year.
Yeah, I know. That's what's funny. If they're all in the top 15, maybe that is good enough. But still, they expect to win championships in Big Blue. They ran out the last guy that was pretty darn good for them out at Arkansas, and he's already been to back-to-back Sweet 16s, while Kentucky got blown out by it was an injured Iowa State team, too, with no Momcilovic.
Yep, exactly. And I do think that it is interesting that you bring that up as well because Arkansas was one of the very few losers, in my opinion, with regards to the NBA draft decisions because Malik Thomas, he decided to stay in the NBA draft. Now, they did get back a few of their pieces as well because they were in a little bit of transition as to what they were going to be able to get out of some of these other guys with Billy the Kid Richmond coming back. But that said, how do you take a look at this Arkansas team now that they're not going to have Malik Thomas? Because I thought had he come back, he might have been their number one scorer.
I think Arkansas under Cal is going to be different this year. They will miss a couple of the pieces especially the guards that they lost, but I still think they have enough length and size and athleticism to really be a second weekend team.
Yep, and with this Arkansas team, you know that with Coach Calipari, he always wants his team to peak in March, sometimes take a loss or two outside of the conference and very early on in SEC play that they're not supposed to, but they do try to be able to fire on all cylinders when it really counts. As a man that does that, that would be our good friend Ryan McIntyre over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, joining me right here on Coast to Coast Hoops, and certainly it's been big what we've been seeing out of those decisions, and obviously LSU has just completely swallowed up the cycle in general in college basketball, but I do think that it's been interesting to see what we've got in the last few weeks in college basketball because there have been a few low-key moves that have been made, and I'm not sure about you, but I think that the Pac-12, the new Pac-12, is going to be very much a fascination for this upcoming season. And I do want to talk about that on the flip side with Ryan because the Pac-12 has not been getting the love that it deserves on this podcast. Want to flesh out what we're going to be seeing out of these teams, a little bit about the realignment, and so much more. We'll do that with Ryan on the other end right here on Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Side edge this college basketball season? Well, VSiN experts use CBB Analytics, the most comprehensive college basketball analytics platform in the world. See injury impact, on and off data, clutch time performance metrics, first versus second half splits, and so much more. Utilize the promo code of VSiN, that is VSIN, to get $30 off and find your betting edge over at cbbanalytics.com. That is cbbanalytics, all one word.com. For anyone that is new to VSiN, well, I wish you a friendly hello. This is an attention to anyone that is new to VSiN because you're able to get some free stuff with our daily newsletter. It's a great way to catch up on everything that's happening in the sports betting world. It's delivered straight to your inbox every single morning. VSiN's newsletter offers picks, data, strategies for the day's betting menu, and so much more. Sign up for free today over at VSiN.com/newsletter. That's VSIN.com/newsletter and start receiving your free newsletter tomorrow morning. That is VSIN.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game and bet smarter with VSiN. And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Ryan McIntyre. He does such amazing work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. They look at all sports on that podcast, whether that be the sport of basketball, which obviously that's our main specialty here, football, hockey when you got the Frozen Four this time of year. Do a great job on the baseball front for Ryan as well. He does amazing work looking at West Virginia athletics. Follow him on the old Twitter /X at Moneyline_MaxBelt, MAC. And Ryan, how about if we do dive in a little bit more on the Pac-12? Because I mentioned it just before the break. Obviously, the NBA draft decisions and everything that's happened with LSU has really captured the attention of college basketball over the last few weeks. But I really do think that it's going to be an interesting year for the Pac-12. And I like what I've seen out of a lot of these teams here in the offseason, like Oregon State looks like they're going to be locked and loaded. Gonzaga, maybe they're not signing a bunch of guys via the transfer portal, but they maintained a lot of their own as well. And I feel like there's a lot of people sleeping on the Pac-12, and I think that this conference is going to be able to come back with a bang this upcoming season.
Yeah, Greg, I think the Pac-12 is going to be improved. Heck, I thought the Pac-12 was good the last year before they all moved over to the Big Ten and Big 12. So, yeah, the Pac-2 now back to the Pac-12. Looking forward to seeing this new era of basketball out west, and I'm interested to see it in the football side, too, just because you got programs that I think have been knocking on the door of taking another step. Now they have that Pac-12 logo brand name to them. I think those programs are on the rise.
Yep, and as our good friend Rocco Miller says, it's sort of like Saved by the Bell, but instead of having Zach and company, you've got a new cast of characters, which I love that phrasing of that. And our good friend Rocco Miller always does a great job in terms of contextualizing things in college basketball for us. And with regards to the new Pac-12, it's sort of like a mismatch of some Mountain West teams. You've got Texas State, who is going to be in there as well, so I think that that's going to be interesting. But I really do think that this could be a sort of coming out party for a team like a Utah State that we all know is rock so they consistently got to the NCAA tournament in the Mountain West. Now it feels like they're going to get a little bit of a bigger platform, and for a school like Utah State, I thought that they did a great job in the offseason, making the best of a bad situation, losing a coach like a Jared Calhoun, but bringing in a guy in Ben McCollum who was very faithful and loyal to Northern Iowa for 2+ decades.
Throw San Diego State in there as well.
Yes.
I think those programs, San Diego State went to a natty already. Utah State, we see how loyal that fan base out there in Logan. I think they're going to take this thing to another level. I could see them turning into a Gonzaga-like, just with how great that fan base is and how great the resources are out there in Utah.
Yep, certainly. And Colorado State, they had some triumphs last season. Obviously, you're number one under Ali Farouk. It was a little bit touch and cold towards the back half of the season, but like what I saw there, and they maintain a lot of their guys as well. So I think that's going to be a great year for them. And Ryan, obviously, over the last few weeks, we've been seeing a lot with the NBA draft decisions. We've been seeing a lot out of LSU, what have you. But is there a team or two under the radar that you're keeping your eye on? Whether that be a team that you think is going to be tremendous this year, or we could go the opposite way as well. Maybe there's a team that's getting a lot of buzz that a lot of people are saying is going to be amazing this year, then you're starting to have a few question marks on.
I'll keep the local and be biased here. I think that the West Virginia Mountaineers are going to be good next year and get back to the dance. I like the pieces that Ross Hodge and that staff have brought in. I think it took them a year to learn the Big 12, go against those different coaches. But I think that staff knows exactly what they need. They want to be identity-wise. I think the Mountaineers will be dancing back in the dance for the first time since 2021 next year.
Yep, and I always think that there's something to this as well. They made a nice run in the Crown, and I know that the Crown might not be like the creme de la creme tournament in college basketball right now, but just being able to get those wins under their belt, I'm not sure how you look at this, but I think these teams that they make a run in the NIT, the Crown used to be the CBI and what have you. Unfortunately, those tournaments have went the way of the dodo bird, but that said, I think that those teams that make a run in those smaller tournaments really set themselves up for a good run the next year.
Yeah, we just saw Nebraska do it. They win the Crown and they start
Central Florida too.
Yeah, 20-0. So I'm in agreement with you. I think it's a nice springboard into the offseason, get some momentum. I think that playing deep into March, and even though it's not the NCAA tournament, Greg, you're still going through and learning how to play later into the season and go through practices, play on neutral floors. I think it bodes well for the upcoming year.
Yep, I'm right there with you. And what else bodes well for us is getting you on this podcast, Ryan. And you mentioned it with West Virginia. I know you've had a great weekend because they are heading to Omaha. So you've been partying like it's, I don't even know when, because I think it's the first time they're ever going to Omaha. So you're partying like it's never happened before because it hasn't. So congratulations to you there. I know that you're doing such amazing work looking at college basketball throughout the year. You and Kobe Dan have it all covered. Everything from football to basketball, hockey when the Frozen Four is in action, and so much more. And you do the Ryan and Rush show, all dedicated to West Virginia. So anyone that wants to hear more about their run to the College Baseball World Series, they've got you covered there. And just let the good people at home know what's on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Amen, Greg. I appreciate it. Yeah, I will be boots on the ground in Omaha here next week. So can't wait. It's my first time going out there for the College World Series. It's been a bucket list. You throw the Mountaineers in there, I'm there. So you tell me where and when, I'll be there. So I'll be making that trip out there. Go check out the college experience, 138 team previews. And then obviously I'm Moneyline Max. So appreciate you having me on, Greg.
Absolutely. And we just need to get you to do some beer reviews from some of those great breweries out there in the state of Nebraska. I know that Lucky Bucket is one of them. And hopefully there is a bucket full of luck for West Virginia out there in the great state of Nebraska. It's going to be amazing to take a look at what we're going to be getting there next week. And I know that Ryan, all throughout the year, he's doing a great job looking at this great sport of college basketball. Every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So big thanks to Ryan for joining me on Coast to Coast Hoops, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. And if you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Coast to Coast Hoops, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter. So, as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And boy, oh boy, it has been a lot of fun to be able to take a look at this offseason in college basketball. Now that the NBA draft decisions are all done, now that we're starting to get a little bit more of a lay of the land with regards to these rosters, conference preview podcasts, they're going to be starting up within the next, I would say, 48 to 72 hours. So be on the lookout there. We're going to continue to get you guys great guests. I'm going to do everything humanly possible to make this the best college basketball season ever. So I appreciate you tuning in today, and I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.